You have a quote here from T.S. Eliot, who puts things pretty succinctly when he says this: "I had far rather walk as I do in daily terror of eternity than feel that this was only a children's game in which all the contestants would get equally worthless prizes in the end."
Yeah. So, people have like their life verse. And I have my confirmation verse, which I guess is the Lutheran version of that. Mm-hmm. If I were to have a life quote, this is it for me. Like, I love this quote. I've only used it one other time in a sermon like 5 years ago, so I thought I could get away with it again this time. I probably could have, but I didn't end up using it. But I love what Eliot does. So first of all, I want us to understand like Eliot's context himself. Sure. So he grew up in a his author. He grew up in a Unitarian Universalist home. Okay, which is like, to be honest, it's just kind of the most watered down version of religion ever. Like, you can kind of tell by the name, right? And so as he grows up, becomes an intellectual. And so he's just like, dude, what is this? Like this sort of hippy dippy stuff. Like, it's just nothing. It's nothing. And so then he goes through and he really studies. He studies philosophy and he studies religion writ large. He really gets pretty interested in Eastern religions in particular, mysticism in particular. But they just don't land for him. They don't land for him. And he ends up becoming what's called like Anglo-Catholic, which is this sort of merging of Catholicism and Anglicanism, as you can kind of tell by the name. And it's a very sort of high church, very traditional type tradition, which is fine. But he takes his faith really, really seriously. And you can see even in this quote, he's pushing back on sort of the Unitarian Universalism of his youth and what he was brought up in, and saying like, dude, actually it's not a game. And you know what? I kind of want it to not be a game. Like, are you kidding me? Like, because, and this is, what Jesus' teachings in our text for the sermon I just gave, they're actually like pretty hard. Like it's a heavy word actually. And to be honest, as a preacher, I wrestle if I softened it too much, but we can discuss that later if we want. But it is a heavy word. And I think that's right. Like, I think, I did say in my sermon, like, this isn't a game. And I think that's what Eliot gets at here is like, dude, I'm just not playing around. And what a gift that actually is. Because if this is just a game and all it is about like getting comfortable and doing whatever I want, like, what are we doing? Like, life doesn't have meaning. Like, what's the point? And so like, I want to live in a world where like what I'm doing matters and where eternity matters and our souls are actually at stake. Like, it actually costs something. And so this quote has always like just embedded itself on my heart. Yeah.
And I think you see that, the age old question of like, what is the purpose of life? Like, sort of goes back to this, like, if there is no purpose, we're sort of just wandering around with no meaning. And I think, like he says here, he'd rather it not be that way.